Hi, I'm Ameera Khalid, and I'm the creator and host of the Powerful Podcast series, produced in collaboration with the Canadian Business Council Dubai. On this podcast, I will be interviewing a diverse group of Canadians and have thoughtful discussions that I hope will resonate with other Canadians in the region and across the globe. The Powerful Podcast series will spotlight not only high-profile Canadians who are movers and shakers, but also individuals who are hardworking, creative, innovative, and entrepreneurial with stories worth sharing. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you enjoy listening to the Powerful Podcast series. And if you do, please subscribe and leave your comments and ratings on iTunes. You can also follow the podcast on the Canadian Business Council's social media channels on LinkedIn and Instagram. You can also listen to the show on various podcast channels. Details will be available in the episode description. Today, it is my honor and privilege to introduce the first guest of the Powerful Podcast series, Ambassador Marcy Grossman. She was appointed Ambassador of Canada to the United Arab Emirates in October 2019 with a 3-year mandate to 2022. Prior to her arrival in Abu Dhabi, she was Canada's Consul General for Dubai and the Northern Emirates from 2018 to 2019. Thank you so much for being on my show, Ambassador. It is an absolute pleasure to have you. My first question to you today is, are you a career diplomat?
Thank you, Ameera. It's a great honor to be here. Yes, I am actually. 21 glorious years in the Foreign Service. I actually specialize in countries that start with U. I did 4 postings in the United States, Denver, Dallas, Miami, and Los Angeles, and 2 postings in the United Arab Emirates. I started my journey in the UAE as Consul General in Dubai in 2018, and then I got a surprise promotion as ambassador and moved here to Abu Dhabi in 2019.
What were the steps you took to becoming an ambassador? Did you face any unique challenges as a woman?
First of all, my journey has been part planning, part fate, and part destiny. So first of all, being an ambassador wasn't always my dream. I had a dream from a very young age to actually work in prison. So I'm a correctional psychologist by training, and I spent the first 10 years of my public service career working in federal corrections. That was my first dream. But I also had a dream to work internationally. I always thought it would be in my field of expertise, which was corrections at the time. I never imagined myself as an ambassador. Going to university, I saw all of my friends taking the Foreign Service exam, and I really envied them. But I never thought that would be possible for me. I didn't think I was smart enough. But anyhow, I had my own dream to be a correctional psychologist and really to help young people and in turn help them turn their lives around. As a woman, I've never really perceived any challenges, and I've had some really amazing supporters and allies, both men and women. And the only discouragement I really had along the way was when I was applying to be Consul General in Miami. And someone told me, a male supervisor, that I wasn't ready. But I thought I was ready. And I decided to roll the dice anyhow. And I rolled the dice and I won. And I would say that in my experience, women don't reach as high as their male counterparts. We like to wait until we tick all the right boxes before we put our hands up for things. And at that, we don't always put our hands up. So I would say women really need to be bold because that's what their male counterparts are doing.
That is very true. Women tend to miss out on a lot of opportunities because they are too scared to take a chance always.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the men are just signing up for everything. 3 levels up, 4 levels up, 5 levels up.
Absolutely, just winging it. Ambassador, can you share a formative experience, professional or otherwise, that helped shape your leadership vision and style?
Well, I think I would draw on 2 examples, one positive and one negative. I'll start with the negative, and that was a hard lesson to learn, and that was failure. I did not know a lot about failure as a young person. I must have led a very sheltered life, and I did not have experience with failure. And I'm a very competitive person. So when I put my head to do something, to compete, I really want to win. And I had tried, after about 10 years being in the public service, to take my executive exams. And I thought I did great. And these were really tough exams. These were like 3 days of going to a psychological assessment center, and people would be grading your behavior behavior, and they'd have actors come into the room and you would role play different leadership experiences. I thought I aced it. And the day I got my results, I just opened them up and I was like ready to bask in the glow of my fabulous marks and see my future as an executive. And I failed. And that failure was really devastating to me. It really knocked me on my butt. And I think the formative part of that was what it took to really emerge from failure and to have experience of failure, because after that, failure wasn't painful at all. I loved it because every time I failed, I learned. So that would be negative. But I think from a positive point of view, in terms of something that's really shaped my leadership vision, is actually honing my vision skills. So I actually have a mantra that is, if you can see it, you can be it. And I coined that probably like 25 years ago, when I realized that if I really put my mind and my vision to something, I could actually actualize it. So if I could picture myself doing something, for example, when I was posted in Dallas, I really pictured myself being, for example, the consul general in Miami. I could picture that. I could imagine myself doing that job. I could picture what I was wearing, what my office looked like, the interactions I would have with the millions of Canadian expats that were living in Florida. And I actually actualized that. So I learned that actually I had a bit of a skill, I think, which is basically around visualization, self-actualization through visualization. So if I could see something, I could be something. And I've managed to actually replay that experience time and time again as a leader.
So, in an average month, how many meetings do you attend where you are the only woman or women are a minority in the room? How did you make space for your voice to be heard as you were rising in your profession?
It's a good question. So when I was coming up, we didn't have anything. We didn't have any role models. We had one or two women that had really succeeded, but it was very difficult to translate from an officer level to the executive level because you didn't have anyone you could count on and that you could go to. Even though I had amazing allies as men and supporters as men, there wasn't a lot of people to draw experience from. It was only actually recently that the government announced its goals around feminist foreign policy, gender parity, et cetera, that really boosted the presence of women in the room. So normally, I'm always a minority. Whether I was in the foreign service, I was always a minority. I think women have a very sort of different approach than men do. And sometimes just listening is actually a better approach because I've learned that in an organization that hires and really values smart people, when you get into a room, smart people just start talking. So my strategy actually has been to listen and then provide vision, context, and execution. So I would say that even if I am the minority in the room, I use my great listening skills to actually take control of the room.
Throughout your illustrious career as an ambassador, have you noticed any differing or changing attitudes towards women in diplomacy?
So in my lifetime, incredible strides have been made. If you think about it, in 1970, as a female foreign service officer, you actually had to quit your job if you got married because people could not imagine that a woman could do two things at the same time, get married and be a foreign service officer. That was a really revolutionary change in the foreign service. And since then, things have changed exponentially. And we actually have gender parity in the ambassador level jobs in our organization. And that's really because the government set objectives and goals for parity. And in the last 7 or 8 years in particular, the department has done so much to prepare women to go abroad, to encourage women to go abroad, to be bold, to take chances, and also prepare the framework for them to go abroad. Because when women go abroad, it's actually a bit of a different experience than men. Even though you don't have to quit your job when you get married now, it was quite untraditional when I started out to actually go abroad and have your spouse follow you, give up their career, give up what they were doing and follow you. So I have seen that change dramatically from when I entered the Foreign Service 20 years ago, when I was like one of few women who had the luxury of having a spouse that would actually travel with me and support me, to I see now in households where that is very, very commonplace. So it's changing a lot. Women's voices are being heard a lot more. Women are given many more opportunities. And if I look here in the UAE, there's so many amazing role models. If I look at the female ministers, I know in your podcast you've mentioned you wanted to meet Miriam Al-Mukhari. She is incredible. Rima Al-Hashmi, Noura Al-Kabi. These are all women who have incredible voices on the world stage. And Canada as well, with 50% of our ambassadors or heads of mission as women, we have that same opportunity around the world to have our voices heard and to have a platform.
As ambassador of Canada to the UAE, how has your experience been here so far? Are there any highlights that you'd like to share?
So when I arrived in 2018 as Canada's female Jewish consul general to Dubai, I thought this was a very bold move. I thought it was a bold move that my government would send me, and I thought it was a bold move that the host government, the UAE, would receive me. And to the last second, when I actually presented my credential papers at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I wasn't really even sure they were going to accept me. I thought they might find out I was Jewish and say, oh, no, this is not a place for you. But on the contrary, I was so warmly welcomed. And even though I felt like I was a minority at that point, the world changed so dramatically from October 2018 to the visit of the Pope in 2019, to the Year of Tolerance in 2019, the announcing of the Abrahamic Family House here in Abu Dhabi. So, a mosque, a church, and a synagogue all on the same campus. And then the Abraham Accords. So I went from being what I thought was an anomaly as a Canadian female Jewish leader in the UAE to actually being the most popular ambassador on the block. All of a sudden, everyone wanted to know, what's it like? What do you see? Is it really true? Are all these changes really happening? So that for me in this posting has been the most incredible part, is seeing the country evolve and be able to evolve with it. Because as I mentioned, I actually got to Dubai as consul general. And it was actually a surprise to me that I was going to be ambassador. It was a surprise promotion. But it was amazing that my journey followed the path of the Abraham Accords.
Of course, you were on the ground and became witness to the change happening. That's amazing. Now, I'd like to talk a bit about the most important event of the year, Expo 2020 Dubai. So what are your thoughts on Expo 2020 Dubai? Are you excited about anything in particular? And are there any specific outcomes you are hoping for?
Remarkably, I was supposed to leave Ottawa in the summer of 2018 to come as consul general, but there was a lag. I was going to spend the summer in Ottawa, and I decided I needed to go to French training because I needed to up my French skills, and I wanted to go to Arabic language training. And I was walking down the hall one day, and I saw the woman that was my boss at the time, who I didn't know, and she said, "Oh, you're Marcy Grossman." And I'm like, "Yes, I am." I said, "I'm going to be your consul general in Dubai." And she said, "I have an impossible project for you to do this summer before you go to Dubai. And I've heard so many great things about you. I know you can do it." I said, "I would love to help you, but I am going to French training tomorrow, and then I am going to Arabic training, and I can't. I'm actually traveling for 3 weeks to French training." She goes, "I'm sorry, I need you to do this job. We need someone to get a mandate for Canada to build a pavilion at the Dubai Expo." And I was like, wow, I think that is really important, because I knew that if Canada did not have a pavilion at Expo, it would be horrible for my posting, being the only country in the world not at Expo. So I spent the summer getting that mandate. And before I left in September, had secured the funding for the Canada Pavilion and helped set up the team that is now our team on the ground at Expo. So suffice it to say, I could not be more excited, because in 2018, I didn't know what an Expo was. In 2019, I sat in the same room as Reem Al Hashmi, and we signed our agreement to participate in Expo. And now in 2021, in 2 short years, we have a beautiful pavilion. It's full of amazing programming, and I could not be more proud and more excited to have been part of that entire journey and to see what the Canada Pavilion has to offer to the world. But I actually do have some hopes for our little pavilion, 3 of them, in fact. First of all, I really want to see a huge deal happen at Expo in our pavilion, either a huge economic deal that's worth billions of dollars, maybe a sovereign wealth fund wants to make an investment in Canada, something huge that shows Canadians that we put good taxpayers' dollars to work. The second thing I really want to have as an outcome is that every single Canadian in the UAE gets a chance to experience the Canada Pavilion and to feel as proud as I am to represent our amazing country here in the UAE. And third dream, and remember, if you can see it, you can be it, is I really want Prime Minister Trudeau to come to Expo on Canada Day, which is going to be on January the 28th, 2022. We've moved it from July because Expo doesn't happen in July. And my big dream would be that the Prime Minister comes, all 40,000 of us Canadians, expats, and anyone else who wants to come will show up and see him and greet him and celebrate Canada's amazing bilateral relationship with the UAE.
Knock on wood, we're going to make that happen. Ambassador, what role does the Canadian Business Council play in advocating the interests of the Canadian community here?
Well, the Business Council has been there from the very beginning. The first day I got off the plane in October 2018 was the day of the CBC Gala. And I went from airport to Gala and sat beside Colin Beaton, who was the chair at the time and who is the chair now. And the first thing he asked me was, are we having a Canada Pavilion at Expo? It's amazing because it was the CBC Dubai and the other business councils who really rallied to encourage the government to make that investment and take that big step. So I would say that CBC Dubai has been a partner always, and for me, from the first day that I got off the plane, and a big partner in Expo. And they have also taken an incredible leadership role in filling some of the gaps that we are not able to fulfill. So for example, we have organized through the Trade Commissioner Service 25 amazing trade missions to come in, but we need to have businesses to pair them up with on the ground. And that's where the CBC Dubai comes in. The CBC Dubai has also been amazing at organizing volunteers, building energy around Expo, and also taking the burden of some of the activities that we could not execute. So for example, the CBC Dubai will be organizing our Terry Fox Run, which is going to be at the Expo site this year. So we are great partners. We always have been, but now during Expo, CBC Dubai are an indispensable partner.
Now, Ambassador, you've had such an international and prestigious career. Throughout your field of work and postings, no doubt you've met many influential people. Is there a person who has intrigued you the most and why?
I have. You are right. First of all, I've met thousands of people in my career, speaking, meeting, convening, collaborating, and many influential people. It's the Canadians that I have met abroad that have inspired me most. It's those people who have left their place of origin, gone to a new country, and started something fabulous. And I have met them everywhere. People like yourself, people like all of the folks at the CBC Dubai, and uncovering Canadians, because we have like a little bit of a radar, right? When we meet someone, there's just a few questions that you can ask somebody, like, where did you go to school? Do you prefer Montreal bagels or Toronto bagels? Like, there's certain little questions you can ask. And to find out that people are Canadians is always a great surprise and delight. That being said, there are some Canadians that I have met abroad that have really been incredible. And I've had a chance to meet most of our Canadian astronauts that were hired in the last 10 years. And I've been privileged to see them launch through the space shuttle program at NASA and go to the International Space Station. Julie Payette, Chris Hadfield, Dave Williams. I have met all of those amazing astronauts and seen many of them launch. So I think to see that kind of innovation is incredible. And I've also met, not all, but some of our great Canadian authors who are so respected around the world. And it really makes me so proud. So Margaret Atwood, so brilliant, so funny, such a visionary. Jan Martel, who wrote Life of Pi, is also the son of a former diplomat. Michael Ondaatje, who wrote The English Patient. These are people who represent the diversity of Canada, the best of Canada, the creativity of Canada, and those people have really inspired me.
Ambassador, my last question to you today, and I have skin in the game with this question. What advice would you give to women seeking to pursue a career in diplomacy? What should they be prepared for?
Well, if you're not in diplomacy now and you want to get into diplomacy, here's a secret for you. It's not about what you know. It's about how you do things, how you lead, how you manage. I didn't join the Foreign Service coming out of university because I didn't think I was smart enough. I thought you had to know everything there is to know about geopolitics, world events, et cetera, et cetera. So I didn't take the Foreign Service exam because I didn't think I was going to pass it. And I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of smart people in my organization, people who know way more than I do. Really, if you want a career in diplomacy, you have to have a certain mindset and a certain skill set. So you have to be innovative. You have to be resilient. You have to be able to self-motivate. You have to be able to collaborate. So if you want to get into diplomacy, and we are hiring right now, the Canadian Foreign Service is hiring right now for the first time in about 10 or 15 years, hiring a large cadre of Foreign Service officers, just do it. The second thing I would say, if you're in diplomacy and you're wanting to develop your career, what you can expect, it's still not easy to be a woman abroad. We travel as mothers, We travel as wives. We travel as devoted daughters. And so it's hard to balance all of that. I always tell people this advice that I got, which I totally refuted when I got it, but I realized at a certain point it was true. You can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. You can't be everything to everyone, and you can't be your all professionally without something falling off the table, whether it's your health, your relationships, whatever it is. So it's not our fault that our best childbearing years are our best earning years. And when those two things coincide at the same time and you're posted abroad, it makes it really, really challenging. So you can have it all, but you just can't have it all at the same time.
With those words, thank you so much, Ambassador Marcy Grossman, for your time today. It was an incredible honor and pleasure having you on my show.
Thank you, Ameera. I wish you great success and continued success with your podcast. And it was just an honor to be here to kick off the podcast. So thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the first episode of the Powerful Podcast series. If you'd like to reach out, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or email me. See you in the next episode.